Okay, Yurii Yavorskyi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Uh, to begin with, I want to give you an opportunity to both introduce yourself and introduce the Canadian Future Party. People probably haven't heard about this one before.
Yes, definitely. We are the newer party, and glad to meet you. My name is Yurii Yavorskyi. I'm running as a candidate for the Canadian Future Party in a Guelph riding. Although I'm not a seasoned politician, I've been passionate about engaging in political landscape of this country. I've dedicated some time to analyze the platforms of different parties when I go to vote during elections, federal, provincial, or municipal level. So I'm really aware on what the parties are offering. That's why I actually joined the Canadian Future Party because I was looking for a party that was actually, supporting all of my beliefs, and I believe this is the one that would be perfect for me to engage myself in the political frame. The political platform of the Canadian Future Party focuses on five areas of concern: the personal freedoms, open government, responsible spending, stronger together at home, as well as stronger together abroad. The party believes that the government should remain uninvolved in any private matters of the adult citizens. We think that the government also should be increasing public participation in policy making when it comes to the legislative process. In terms of the fiscal policies, we are planning to reform the civil service to focus the government efforts to where the most impact could be made, reforming the taxation system as well as lowering the national debt. The party's domestic policies include combating climate change with a carbon capture, nuclear power, energy, renewable energies as well. And we're going to foster close cooperation with the provinces and territories to build housing and direct immigrants to the areas where they're needed.
Hmm.
In terms of the foreign policy as well as the defense, we do also plan to do some reform in terms of getting additional funding for the defense, cooperating with the democracies in place, like such as the European Union, Australia, United Kingdom, South Korea, and many more, to cooperate together in this volatile world.
Well, you covered a lot of ground there. I want to go back to because this one line on the CFP website stuck out to me that the Canadian Future Party is committed to building a strong, united, and more affordable Canada where decisions are based on evidence. That struck me as interesting because I feel like, as Stephen Colbert said, facts have a well-known liberal bias, and I know that part of the idea behind the Future Party is that you're kind of aiming for a post-partisan government. I'm curious how you're navigating that when, there's this information space that makes people think that certain facts have certain leanings.
Yes, that's a good question. In terms of this, like our leader says, we're not left, not right, we're forward, so we are planning to involve the community more in the decision making of the government. So as the government makes investments in certain projects, sometimes it's not 100%, clear on where the funds are going and what type of an outcome you receive after the projects are completed. So we will review all the projects and investments of the federal government because this is tax money from our citizens and residents, and make sure that they make a difference and that they make an impact, not just spending a certain amount of funds and seeing no evidence of any sort of a positive outcome. So this is
Hmm.
evidence based, is make it more transparent to the public, as well as be responsible on what the outcome of the project is.
Hmm. Um, I think a lot of this probably comes from the fact I spent the morning reviewing the career of your leader, Dominic Carty, who, for people who don't know, maybe not terribly familiar with New Brunswick politics, He was the leader of the New Brunswick NDP, and then he was a conservative MLA and a cabinet minister. And then he sat as an independent MLA, and now he's an emerging party leader. Um, I guess to your mind, in terms of appealing to you, appealing to your politics, what makes Dominic Carty a compelling figure? And maybe, I mean, not this election because there's only 19 members of the future party
Correct.
running, but maybe in the future, what makes Mr. Carty a compelling figure as potential prime minister material?
I believe our leader does have quite a wide range of experience in terms of participating in politics. He was made a great impact working in Maritimes, and as being a participant in different parties, it kind of reminds me of our Canadian voter. As a Canadian voter myself, I have voted for various parties during different elections on the federal level, provincial level, based on their promises and outcomes. And I believe that the reason why Dominic decided to go into this new party and initiate this new movement is because he saw that the other parties, whatever they were offering, is not really working.
Hmm.
So unfortunately, being part of the same group with these parties might not allow you to make your own decisions and make more impact as opposed to being part of the new political platform. So I believe seeing that certain things were not working currently, he actually decided to, initiate this political movement, the Canadian Future Party.
We're having an interesting moment, and I wonder if I could get your thoughts on it, where I think there's not a lot of intrinsic trust in traditional structures and traditional institutions, which makes independent figures like you and other independent candidates running more attractive to people. But I think there is still anyone who might be intrigued by the ideas of the Canadian Future Party are probably sitting at home or in their car listening to this thinking, well, okay, that's all really nice, but it's either going to be a liberal or conservative government. And so in terms of just like trying to get the voting public open to new ideas and trying to appeal to them as an emerging party and as a non-traditional candidate, I guess to your mind, what what are the barriers to sort of like people taking that leap? And maybe that this speaks to your experience. You said you voted for different parties and now you're part of this new party. So how do you go from trying to work within the traditional structures to trying something new?
I believe the main solution in this particular case would be actually listening to the voters. When I
Hmm.
have gone through the city and I've collected the signatures to be able to participate in the elections, this is a requirement from Elections Canada to participate. I've heard many concerns from the regular voters, anything from the housing to taxation to gun laws to education to rebates for medical treatments. You have to listen to what the actual voter is asking, not just coming in with your platform and asking them to vote for you, understanding what their needs are and focusing on these needs. And also, in addition to that, I would say our leader, going back to Dominic Carty, was saying that even though we will not possibly make the government this time, we are hoping that other parties will, you know, steal our ideas and implement them as part of the platform, because this is something we're trying to make a change. We're not trying to say that this party is not working well and that party is not perfect, but we're trying to offer something new. And if they take over our ideas initially, I think that's already a huge plus, which will make us more compatible in the future elections, next federal or next provincial elections. I think this is the first step. There's only like the sky is the limit, and we're just going to move forward.
I wondered if you were going to say the words because I did know that was literally on the PDF of the platform. Steal these ideas. Um, in terms of having a small caucus, um, just assuming for a minute every member of the future party gets elected, you'd have 19 members. Um, probably a pretty significant force inside the House, but depending on how the layout of the rest of the House goes, maybe, you know, would require some horse trading and agreements and power sharing. But envision for a minute, what would it look like if there was a future party presence in the House? And also, what kind of MP do you want to be? How would having Yurii as Guelph's MP be different than, say, having Dominique or Gorver or Janice or whoever from a major party?
That's a great question. I believe our party would always align as a coalition with pro-Canadian parties. At this particular moment, we do hear a lot of rhetoric from the South that is against Canada, and with all of the tariffs and threats, unfortunately. So we will always be pro-Canadian, and I myself as an MP, I would like to focus on helping medium and small size cities like Guelph in improving it themselves as in terms of the housing, healthcare system, affordability, transportation availability, as well as the job opportunities. Because a lot of the times, these large, colossal projects are planned by the federal government, but smaller and medium-sized cities are staying behind. And unfortunately, a lot of the youth are leaving the cities because of the lack of
Mm,
opportunities. So my focus would be on supporting the local writing in terms of their immediate needs and focusing more um, inwards for now to
mm,
support the community.
okay. In terms of you mentioned going out and having to get the signatures, and I talked about this with somebody else. It's 125 signatures, am I right?
It has to be over 100, but
Okay,
usually they advise you to collect a little bit more because some
right.
signatures might not be accepted or so. So I had, I believe, 118 or 119 signatures. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that meant I assume you don't have 118 members of your family to, to sign
Oh
up for
no,
you. So
I wish.
you had to actually go out and talk to people. So when you're talking to people about supporting your candidacy, I'm sure it came up like what they wanted from an MP. So when you're talking to people, what do they want from a representative that maybe they haven't been getting from the current MP?
Yes, actually, the people who were signing my sheet as I was going from house to house, my neighbors, you could say some of the strangers as well that I never met in my life, they were telling me that they also voted for other parties, and unfortunately, they have not delivered. And then many had their own personal, questions in terms of the needs that they have personally, like the healthcare rebates on medicine, taxation issues, gun registry, housing. It was housing actually was one of the main concerns of quite a few
Hmm.
individuals. Although these individuals do have houses, and they reside in, it looks like they do have nice dwellings and everything. But I mean, they are concerned about their fellow neighbors and citizens in the city who are less fortunate, and they do require additional help in getting affordability of the housing, not just housing, but
Right,
affordable housing.
right. So, looking to the flip side and actually, going out there and, you have a party support, but it is a new party. They're like the party's learning the ropes as all you candidates are kind of learning the ropes. So in terms of your ground game, in terms of how you are getting out there, how are you kind of finding it, and how are you kind of able to overcome the challenges of being there are some debates that held locally you're not invited to and you're not a part of because they focus on the major party candidates. So can you talk a bit about the challenges of putting yourself out there as someone who's not running for one of the main parties?
Well, the main challenge is actually knowing about the party. That's that's the main concern. Even when you knock on the door and you say, "I'm from the Canadian Future Party," one gentleman asked me, "Is this a soccer club or something?" Of that sort. So it's getting to the voters to know about us. Engaging them, explaining what we stand for and how different we are from the other mainstream parties. That's the main difficulty, I would say. But surprisingly enough, people are more receptive than I thought. They were actually really excited to hear about our party, what we do, what we offer, and many have signed. Not everybody signs, and that's definitely fine. But I mean, I was glad to let the voters, local voters, know that we do exist. This party is offering something different, and we are here if you want to, explain your needs and concerns. We are here to listen. So that was the main achievement for me during
Mm,
the signature collection.
mm, hmm Um, in terms of campaigning, though, I know that there are some candidates for whom, that's a little easier because they have big volunteer base of experienced volunteers. Some of them have jobs where they can take leaves of absences and not have to worry about the paychecks. So just is has like in terms of like just getting out there and knocking on the doors, has that been easy for you to do that?
I would think that the most difficult concern for me was the weather conditions. Yeah, I think on the days that I was walking around and trying to get my signatures was the coldest couple of days there, So it was a little bit challenging. My wife was helping me, we were driving around, and selecting the neighborhoods and knocking on doors and she was witnessing the signatures and everything. So she was a huge help for me. Our EDA in Guelph is still forming, so it
Mm,
was like for now we're still growing. But I mean, like for me, it wasn't the timing situation because I could take a day or two here and there, and then also use my time after I finish my work to campaign and mm, collect signatures before that too. Main concern was the weather. Everything else
mm.
was fine.
Well, let's look ahead for a bit. Assuming you do not win on Monday, um, how do you see yourself in politics in the future? Like, is this something you see yourself doing? I mean, it's not unusual for some candidates to do two or three elections before they finally win. I mean, I think we could probably find candidates who do seven, eight elections before they're able to win. So, I mean, is this something you can see yourself doing for the long haul, being involved in a new party like this, and or at least if not being a candidate yourself, like actively trying to promote a new political party and new ideas?
Yes, I believe I would participate even past the elections. I think the most important part here is to grow the grassroots movement, form the EDA, local EDAs on different ridings and support each other. We only have 19 candidates, but we do support each other, help each other with tips and tricks on how to campaign better, how to get the most out of, this short period of time that we need to do. So I think I will participate, here in Guelph, even if I'm not a candidate for the next elections. If another person steps in to participate, let's say in the provincial elections, I will support him. I will help with the signature collection because I do know that, it does take time and it's a tough job to do, but I think you can do it, and if with the support of your local EDA and growing support and a movement here, I think we could go far, and not just here in Guelph, but all over the province and in Canada.
All right, well, listen, we have the time, so I want to kind of do a little lightning round on some future party policy. Um, it is there online. It's a PDF people can download if they would like. Um, but in terms of, well, I mean, let's tackle housing first of all, which I think is the big one. How would the future party like to support the growth of not just more housing, but affordable housing in Guelph and the rest of the country?
Yes, I think there's a number of steps that need to be made in this particular process. Firstly, the federal government should get involved more so in building affordable housing, working together with the local community, as well as building a federal lands that would allow the housing to be provided for the federal employees as well. And this links into the immigration as well, because a lot of the times, the scarcity of the housing is not the question of the materials or regulations, it's the question of a labor force as well.
Mm,
So we do have a lot of, tradespeople from all over the world who are really qualified, and we could focus on getting quota higher for these individuals to come in and help to build, our housing, the affordable housing. This will tackle three issues, like first of all, we will get qualified immigrants coming into the country that would like to work and contribute. We will build the housing, and at the same time, we will make our promises known and make our promises, complete.
hmm I made a note of this because I think it's been an not a missed issue, but it certainly hasn't been talked about as much as I think it people might have liked, which is that you do have a policy on creating a what's called a 10-year path to justice, partnership, and renewal on reconciliation. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yes, that's also a very important part, working with indigenous communities. A lot of treaties were not fulfilled, so our plan is to finalize the treaties within the next 10 years. Whatever else is pending currently, focus on getting this thing completed, and then signing new treaties with the First Nations, which are more just and, involving respect, mutual respect, and cooperation. So we can't make them wait longer for things that they waited for a century, possibly in some cases. So
Mm.
it's very important to get the things completed with the First Nations and work together to a better future.
I found this one interesting too. A pan-Canadian utility corridor, which seems really, really ambitious. Could you talk a bit about that?
Well, we are thinking about the policy, to be included in our program as well. I hope it works, and even if we don't get elected into this government, I hope other parties do support it, so we will be able to make it complete.
hmm Um, this one, an ethical foreign policy, because um, I noticed one of the things was sort of like stop funding UNRWA, which I think is a lot of people will say has sort of been unfairly demonized in the midst of the war in Gaza. But aside from that, or maybe along with that, can you talk a bit about what it means to have an ethical foreign policy?
Ethical foreign policy means working closely with the democratically elected governments that are supporting, uh, cooperation in, they're not supporting any kind of terrorist organizations, working together to help. Even in Gaza, the way their population is supported could be made better, more transparent, so no one will be doubting that these organizations are spending the funds that are collected from our tax, money,
hmm
will be contributed to something negative, like the
Mm,
money laundering, arms, or anything of any terrorist threat. So I think transparency, this is where transparency comes in
right.
with our party, to make it more known to our citizens where the funds are going and what we are actually supporting with this money.
And I would also point out this is kind of a probably, I imagine, a personal issue to you because to address the accent in the room, you grew up in Ukraine.
Correct.
So I imagine the idea of an ethical foreign policy hits pretty close to home.
Yes, it is true because what happens is prior to these recent years, we thought that, the rule of law is important, and all the treaties and agreements and, independence of certain countries should be respected. But unfortunately, lately, there are certain, political figures and regimes are not respecting that, even not just in terms of Ukraine, but in terms of Canada as well. Since I've been here since 1994, I've never heard our main ally, treat us in this certain way that
Right.
they do. And, same thing happened in Ukraine,
Yeah.
through political or economical difficulties country was passing, you could kind of expect this to happen, but, to have a war in the 21st century, like a full-fledged war, it was never expected to happen. So I think
Yeah.
Canada must become a leader in supporting democracy in the world, as some of the, other countries stepped away from this. We should,
Yeah.
make a step forward and continue with, supporting democracy.
Well, thank you for that. We covered a lot of ground, but I do like to ask every candidate if there is, like, outside of the party platform, outside of the issues of the day, is there anything in particular you want to really talk about before the election is over? What is like Yuri's number one most important issue?
We have already discussed the housing crisis. I think the second most important issue would be the healthcare system here in Canada. I think the whole system must be, or reformed as well. Same thing comes whenever we trust newcomers to come in as foreign professional medical professionals to come in and get reevaluated sooner than later, eliminate the waiting times, because I do know some actually for, distant family members have actually had to travel abroad to have their surgery done because the waiting periods are extremely long. So I think that the next most important issue internally for Canada, as opposed to simply just housing, is a healthcare system. Healthcare system
Mm,
needs to be um, overhauled and allow the foreign trained professionals to come in sooner into the field, and then, eliminate these waiting times and, make the health of Canadians is priority for the whole, on the federal, provincial, as well as the municipal level.
Well, Yuri, we did cover a lot of ground today, and I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. But for anyone who hasn't gotten enough yet and wants to learn more about the Canadian Future Party, where can they go to get that information?
Yes, I think the best source is to go to our website, the party's website. We are also on social media on Facebook, Twitter. So anywhere you could definitely get a lot of information. If you have additional questions, you can email me on my profile on the party website. There's my email address as well. So if you have any kind of questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me or to the party directly. Feel free, if you believe that this is something that you would support, feel free to join us in our effort to make improvements. But even if you don't vote for us, please make sure that you do vote for whoever believe is right for the country. Make sure, and I see people are doing it, with the advanced elections, but make sure that you vote
Great message to end it on. So, Yurii Yavorskyi, thank you so much for your time today, and good luck through to next Monday, or I guess this coming Monday now.
this coming Monday.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you very much, Adam.
thank you.